All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to this week's Ascension Ground Crew check-in. And I just want to kick it off over to both of you. And I don't know who wants to jump in and start, but what are you feeling about Ascension this week, or noticing, or what's coming up for you?
Myrna, you go.
Yeah, I have some thoughts, but of course I always do. Um, but I've been focused on forgiveness. We had some incidents of, public difficulty here in America in the past 8 or 10 days or so. And there's been, I guess, in the general zeitgeist, a conversation around forgiveness. What are the Christian ideas of forgiveness? How do people navigate when bad things happen to seemingly good people or wherever you are on that? How do we keep going when tragedy happens? And so, yeah, I did some forgiveness exercises, and I guess life serves us up opportunities to participate in our soul's evolution, and then to also watch sort of the population in general engage in something big like forgiveness. So unexpected, that would kind of impact not just the United States, but other countries in the world, memorial vigils and that kind of thing, pictures around the world. So since COVID, we haven't had kind of a worldwide thing like that. But we had one in the last 2 weeks or so. And I was engaged in a forgiveness process and watching others around the world be engaged in that as well. So that's something I really noticed. The frequency of forgiveness is pretty high, Brian. I don't know if it's at 400 or 500. Um, but it's a lovely level of frequency. And the good thing to come out of the bad thing that happened is it brought people into a conversation around forgiveness. So I guess in terms of participating in watching everybody else's ascension and trying to navigate my own, forgiveness was the byword this week. So that's kind of where I was coming from. And I surprised myself that there were people I still had not fully forgiven. And it's like, how many times do I have to forgive them before it's finally all done? Years later, and I'm still carrying around the echo of the bad thing that happened. And I guess it's just a continuous journey, but I was in an intersection where I could work on it again, and it was definitely helpful for me. So that's my update.
It's really cool. Do you want
Angela,
me
you
to
want to
go?
jump in?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the thing that was, I guess, out kind of like outstanding to me was I started kind of doing this purging process of stuff, like actual physical things in my house.
Mhm.
Um, Anticipating a change next year and thinking of maybe moving. And so as a result, I was kind of thinking, well, what do I want to take with me and pack in boxes, and what do I want to like let go of? What do I want to release? And I kind of went through this combination KonMari thing where, does this still give me joy? Do I still want this? Maybe there's some sentimental value to it. It makes me happy, or is it functional? Do I use it? And then there was um just radical purging of stuff that doesn't serve me anymore. I think you like to call it, Myrna, the Swedish death cleaning, where
That's
you
what
don't want to leave
I
it. Like if you croaked, what would you
thought.
be leaving behind for your loved ones to
That
sort?
stuff to sort through or treasures to
Yes.
choose.
And the ironic thing is that I'm getting ready to sort of kind of do that with my father's belongings. He was living with my elderly aunt before he passed away, and she, bless her heart, has been going through his things and donating his clothes to charity and that sort of thing. And I'm going to drive over and help her with like getting rid of his bed, and things like this, so that she can reclaim that room in her home, and such. So it's kind of weird in that he left behind things that we are having to sort as his children, as his offspring. And I'm thinking, and it's making me think, do I want to leave this for my kiddo to worry about? I'm not planning on checking out anytime soon, but it made me think about that. But what was interesting as I was going through this was, and I think the two of you will really appreciate this, was I was going through ego death. They call it the small death, the small ego death, where it's like part of your ego you just strip away and let go, and it dies away. It's not part of your personality or your consciousness anymore. Because basically I was going through all these things in my office and a filing cabinet that I have in my office, materials, files, client files, training papers from trainings that I've taken over the years when I worked in corporate America. So materials that went back to 1998, I kid you not. I was gleefully reading and reclaiming, like if it was something I could recycle and maybe turn into art papers, because I'm a collage artist and I like to do monoprints and work with paint on paper and that kind of thing. I'm like, I have a whole banker's box or, one of those cardboard boxes that is full of reclaimed paper that I can now turn into art pieces, art paper that I can use for collages. I reclaimed a crap load of paper clips and binder clips, and I have way more folders than I ever will need. So I'll probably end up donating those too.
Never buy
Um,
another folder.
yeah, so three, tall kitchen bags full of papers and things um, that I don't need anymore. Shredded a lot of stuff. So it was this great kind of purging that was happening, this kind of ego death, because a it was old career. It was like two careers actually. So it was a lot of years worth of
Way
materials.
back in the
And
before times, way back.
yeah, yeah. So for me this week it was a lot about um, the career identity and how much I identified with the careers I have and how I don't feel that way anymore. Because it was a contrast, right? It was a contrast of, look at this old me. I used to work really hard and I used to be really, really into this identity. And I used to be very, very proud of this expertise I had and these accomplishments and this work I did and this body of work that I built. And, I've written 3 books and tons of articles, taught many classes. I was gleefully ripping up materials for classes that I'll never teach again that had just been sitting there in folders in the cabinet. So when you look at the things that I did, you wouldn't be able to tell because it was essentially it was all tucked away in a filing cabinet, right? But there's a lot of space in those drawers now. So if I opened the drawers and you saw how much space was in there, and I could tell you they were packed to the gills with, stuffed with papers. So that was kind of like, I felt there was a kind of a spiritual aspect to that, and that I was letting go of these old identities. And I had already let them go. And what was going on was now I was letting go of the residual, you know, and just marveling and reflecting on, wow, look how much I don't identify as that anymore. It was similar to when I one point looked at my kiddo as an adult and realized, wow, at one point I was like, she was an infant and I was breastfeeding. And who was that person? Who was that Mother Earth person I was that was all into, taking care of this child as an infant? And now she's an adult. And I was having this kind of experience of, I can't identify with that me that used to be. Yeah. So I would say that's my contribution to this conversation today is, yeah, let's move on to the you know,
Okay.
next step in the journey without taking the baggage with us, literal physical baggage with us. I see
Yeah,
Ron
yeah.
and
I mean,
Ron saying, yeah.
I think that's good. I mean, definitely all the physical items that we have, it definitely affects our energy. I mean, that's kind of like the whole feng shui thing. Even just,
Hmm.
the locations of all the objects or the furniture in your house. And
I'll have all these
yeah,
paper clips.
nice.
I will not ever use all of these paper clips now, though. To have an abundance of paper
Yeah,
clips, an
We need an art
overabundance,
project based on colorful paper clips.
maybe. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, no, I totally get that. And yeah, I do think letting go of old identities is a part of ascension. Basically just shedding illusions in general. And yeah, I think that I think there's sort of I don't know, maybe not a resurgence, but sort of a coming into authenticity for a lot of people, even if they don't want to. I think it's just emerging. Like the who you really are is just coming out. I think like the energies, the consciousness is just kind of forcing that. So yeah, I think that's good. It's good to clean out all that old stuff. And I do think you feel an energetic sort of weight being lifted when you get rid of a lot of old stuff that you don't use or care about anymore. Um, it's like it's like it was weighing you down, you know. To have all this stuff that you don't really never look at, never use. It's good to get rid of that kind of stuff if you don't need it at all.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, Mom, you mentioned forgiveness. Yeah, I do think forgiveness is important and it's good. Like for your own heart, for your own heart space, for your own consciousness. So, I mean, if you look at Course in Miracles, and I'm sort of taking this my own direction. I don't know if it exactly says this, but you can sort of see it as when you're holding a grievance against someone or something, it's not just against that one thing. You're kind of holding a grievance against existence,
Mhm.
or against God. It's like this thing where you feel that this thing that happened should not be allowed to exist. So it's sort of it kind of creates a conflict between you and everything that is, or between you and reality. So, forgiveness can be a way to remove that barrier to where you're in harmony with reality, with the way things are. And I think that can be very, very healing. As far as the, Charlie Kirk stuff, I saw some videos. I saw a video of someone was saying their church is like never full, and recently it's just been packed. Like line, line of cars waiting to get into the church parking lot. So I do think I'm seeing a big Christian revival, which I think is good. And as far as, part of Ascension, I think that's great. But really anything that's making people more spiritual, going within more, less materialistic is a movement in the right direction, I would say. Um, yeah, so that's what I would mention for now.
Yeah. It sounds like we were shedding physical things and energetic things this week.
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
yeah,
think a big conversation about people returning to or beginning for the first time spiritual considerations in their lives. People would say, I bought a Bible, or people would say, I haven't been to church in 20 years. I heard one podcaster say, the last time I was in church, it was the day I got married because my mother-in-law insisted we get married in a church. That was 20 years ago. And I've gone back to a church now 2 weekends in a row. I don't know if it's a church I'm going to stay at, but I'm going to figure this religion thing out. I'm going to figure out how to have a spiritual walk. And I don't know why I want to do that now, but now seems to be the time. So I think part of the ascension conversation is, as you say, Brian, people feel like they're so inclined to start to think about these things. or they're seeing the world differently, not because they want to. They open their eyes and it looks different now. They open their eyes and this person is acting different now. There was a person I noticed on Twitter who said, my 30-year best friend, we've called each other sisters since elementary school, has unfriended me online and in life. No longer wants me in her life, and I don't know what to do about it. There seems to be no path to reconciliation. I don't know what to do. So she didn't share what the disagreement was about, but we're seeing this vibration separation happening, and then we're also seeing this vibration attraction. Maybe I'll go back to temple. Maybe I'll go to the family meal and stay the night and go to church in the morning and just go with my parents and my family. So I think there's this sort of wave and people are just being kind of carried along with it a little bit. And that feels like some kind of ascension process.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think going to church is great, or any type of increase in spirituality is good, whatever your current, orientation is. Um, but yeah, personally, I'm seeing more of I'm seeing a lot of Christian revival. I think especially around the Charlie Kirk incident, especially in America, I think that's
Mhm.
sort of driven people to that. Yeah, which I think is good. I mean, you know, and also, I mean, anything that's just making people less materialistic. Like, I think that I personally have felt that American culture is way too materialistic and way too, egotistical and just status oriented and all this kind of stuff for way too long. Um, and I don't even think that's sustainable, really. I think eventually your culture just collapses, if you just keep going that way.
Mhm.
So, you know, I think it's good that um, people are somewhat getting away from that, going to church or reading the Bible or praying or at least some kind of spiritual, you know, orientation. I mean, at the end of the day, your life is really your consciousness. So, and the qualities of that, I mean, is basically the main way you experience life. You experience it through that medium. So go directly to that. You know what I mean?
And
And
I do
yeah,
think, I'm sorry, I know Angela, I need to chime in here, but I think there's a way in an ascension process to not pick a team, to not say, well, I'm a Christian and you're not, so we're not the same. We posted a meme on Patreon that's like Jesus and Buddha in heaven going, same with me. Yeah, same, same. We said the same things. We said them differently at different times to different cultures and different spots on the planet. But, if we don't denigrate one kind of faith in order to elevate the kind of faith we prefer, we're just creating discord and distress. If whatever you embrace in terms of your faith works for you, more power to you. But there doesn't need to be criticism or judgment about whatever the other people's faith is, because that takes a net positive and adds some negative features to it. So I think we may be getting to a point where we set aside, which flavor of spirituality do you do? And just appreciate that people are having some kind of engagement with the creator, with nature and beauty and truth, a walk with God, whatever that looks like for you. And maybe not put on a team jersey that says, this is my team, but can participate in their own evolution and welcome the evolution of others.
Yeah. Or that my spiritual practice is better than your spiritual
That's
practice.
right. My dad can beat up your dad.
Or my spiritual practice is the only way.
Yeah.
And my spiritual path is the only way. That is still polarization. And we're heading toward a unity consciousness. Ascension is all about heading toward a unity consciousness, heading toward a harmonious consciousness, which is
Mhm.
radically different than how we are existing
Mhm.
as humanity today. So it will be a radical change in human consciousness and individual consciousness as well. But the path to it, from what I'm seeing, from what I can tell, is individual consciousness. You have to raise your individual consciousness, and by doing that, it does have a knock-on effect in that it
Mhm.
will, you know, ignite others and so forth. And you can't do that if it's, well, I'm doing a spiritual practice and I'm trying to raise myself up, but my spiritual practice is better than your spiritual practice.
Right. I'm on the
You're
winning
wrong.
team.
I'm right, you know. And if
Yeah.
you're in that kind of scenario, that's not unity at all.
Mhm.
That's using spirituality in the same way that you might use political,
I
polarization.
drive a nicer car. I have a better job. My kids are more well behaved. I mean, that spirit of competition doesn't quite work in the
It's still
spiritual sector.
it's still a war mentality. No matter how you look at it, it's a war mentality. So you're still warring and in competition with others. Wallace Wattles is someone that I studied for a little while. He wrote a book back in 1910, I think it was. And he was into self-development long before self-development became faddish and cool. And he was saying that, everything that happens is for our betterment. Everything that we do, everything is perfect and evolving.
All
So
these
if you look at it from a creative, we're creating and we're being creative versus competitive. If you don't go with a competitive mindset, but you go with a creative mindset, then you are in a higher frequency, as you might call it. So anyway, that's my contribution for this week.
Well, I remember my favorite poet, Robert Frost, talked about his lover's quarrel with God. And he loved God and he was a man of devotion, but he had tragedy come into his life and he just was in an argument with God about it. They had a very hard winter. They had a new baby and the baby got sick and died. And then his wife, 3 months later, got sick and died. So now he's on a farm by himself and he's arguing with God every day about what is up with this. And I think those that are beginning a spiritual engagement or returning to one, it's helpful to talk to other people that are also in those kinds of engagements and have also walked through similar situations. But the way he phrased it was a lover's quarrel with God, like, this is not working for me, God. Like, I don't get what this is about. So I think it can be helpful. And part of the reason we did the Ascension Ground Crew is to voice these things and kind of share what's going on for us individually that it might be relatable to others.
Well said.
Mhm.
All right. Well, I guess that wraps up this week's Ascension Ground Crew meeting. And everyone have a good week.
Until next time.